Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got you guys an update on some very, very impactful storm systems that are really going to start to become amplified as we get towards this weekend. We're talking about potentially the biggest storm of really December. As we get into this weekend, we're going to see a big dip in the jet stream. And a big trough that's going to sweep through. That's going to really deliver this very dynamic and strong storm system that's going to bring both very heavy snow, but also a lot of rainfall to some areas in the eastern U.S. I think this is going to be more of an eastern U.S. kind of system rather than central U.S. I think you guys in the central U.S. will just get the first small taste of it before it actually really gets stronger and stronger. But taking a look here at our current radar, what we're looking at now is a very, very active and big storm system, piece of energy moving through the Pacific Northwest. This is one of your waves of your atmospheric river that's going on right now. You can see a lot of heavy rainfall moving through the Seattle area into right around the Washington State and U.S. Canada borderline. Okay, but a lot of snow just to the east of that. We do have some different piece of energy kind of just flying around out here. Not really going to do much affecting what we're going to be talking about in this video, but we could do see some rainfall moving through Nebraska. These are not thunderstorms, so if you're in Lincoln, Nebraska, and the clouds begin to darken and you start to see some rainfall, it's not going to be any severe weather or anything. This is just a typical rainstorm just moving through your area. All right, so nothing much going on other than that, so we'll get rolling and move on to our alerts here. So taking a look at our alerts, you can see starting on the Dakotas where we have these wind advisories, okay? Right off to the west of this, in South Dakota, in northwestern South Dakota, we have a high wind warning, all right? Very, very strong winds. We're talking gusts potentially up to 70 miles per hour, which is approaching hurricane force winds, okay? So very strong winds out there. Please do be careful, especially if you are you're driving a high profile vehicle, because if your vehicle has a long body, those winds that are moving from side to side can easily push down the vehicle that you're in, because the strength needed for the wind to push down that truck it's evened out, so it's easier for the wind to push it down. Just giving you guys a heads up on that. Another region at here, which is actually, this one is under a high wind watch, I believe. This might be a high wind warning going out for portions of southeastern Wyoming. Still that same typical region that's been seeing those gusty winds lately. All right, heavy freezing spray warning going out for portions of northern Colorado. That's a rare one. All right. So I don't know if there are any lakes or bodies of water out here, but if there are, just make sure that you're aware that there is actually some freezing spray right by that water. Northwestern U.S. This is where things get a little tricky, uh, a little active here. So we can see it on the west coast of Washington State into Oregon State. This is all up and down the west coast of those two states. We have a flood watch. Okay, very, very heavy rainfall moving in. Just to the east of that, in northern Washington State, that's where we see that winter weather advisory. Some snowfall is expected to start to accumulate as we get through this evening. Just south of that, into southern Washington State and then northern Oregon, we have a hydraulic outlook. Okay, nothing really to be worried about with that, so we'll just skip ahead from that. And then that, by the way, that flood watch does actually go into portions of northern Utah, so more heavy rainfall is still spreading here. Extreme fire danger, okay, or this might even be an avalanche watch. I'm pretty sure this is an avalanche watch. Okay, this is going out for portions of northwestern Montana. All right, very, very active times ahead. It's not uncommon, but it's definitely not common to see avalanches out here in northwestern Montana. Okay, and by the way, the reason why is just because you're having so much excessive rainfall and precipitation that it's kind of like it's kind of making the mountains, if you would, slippery, if you want to put it that way. So it's easier for things to slide down the mountain. Okay, that's pretty much how much rainfall we're getting now. But other than that, looks like we're pretty good. And we'll move over to our NAM 3CAM model for the northwestern US. All right, so starting out, we're looking at our current wave of this atmospheric river that's really going to impact these areas very hard. All right, so this was a story 2 p.m. today. We had pretty heavy rainfall, pretty steady rainfall, moving right into the coastline here of Washington and Oregon. Some light to moderate snowfall moving through those mountainous regions, all right, in the north central portion of Washington state. But here comes that heavy rainfall. I mean, this is incredible rainfall that you're seeing. This is extremely heavy rainfall. And it's moving right in here, right around the Seattle area. So I'm sure you guys are getting dumped. So if any of you guys out here are in Seattle, please let me know what you're seeing out here. I'd really like to know if you're seeing any snow with this, because there tonight and even this morning there were some chances of snow, but it's really low. Okay, but yeah, definitely that rainfall is going to be pretty crazy. You're definitely going to have to be dealing with flash flooding. So please, 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 don't just make sure that you're avoiding travel and driving as much as possible. So really, you don't want to be driving, across. I mean, I'm sure none of you are really going to be driving across the state, but really, like a long period of time, because you will encounter some flooded roads definitely today, because this rainfall will continue into tomorrow. Okay, we're getting into 5 a.m. tomorrow. We're still seeing that same rainfall. Really, it's almost stalling out here. So that same place, just a continuous stream of moisture is getting pumped into the system. You can even see the flow of the moisture based off the run we just saw is moving right up towards that low pressure center. That low pressure center, all right, this is it right here. You got low pressure right there. Okay, and that moisture, that rainfall is all following that low pressure, but it's moving in that continuous line. So that's why you don't really get a break in the rain. So that low pressure, it weakens, okay? And it kind of just jumps around out here into this piece of energy of part of the storm system that's located over portions of southwestern Canada, and then really this low pressure takes the place of it. It finally makes it out from the Pacific up to the northwest, and it takes about 2 days for this thing to get out, because we're getting to tomorrow, or no, we're getting into Wednesday morning. Okay, and this thing looks like it's just arriving. All right, so it's going to take a long time for this thing to get out, but it finally starts to weaken, but it will change over to snow. Very heavy snow, by the way, for these mountainous regions. We're probably going to be dealing with a few feet of snow in just a few days. So if you are in the upper elevations of any of these areas, be on alert for some snow. It's going to be pretty heavy. Really, the higher you are, the more snow you're going to get. But yeah, these darker shades of blue signifies very, very heavy snow and some pretty high snowfall totals per hour, I guess you could say, snowfall rates. So we look at this is the current projected rainfall totals. Okay, we're not going to be looking at the current projected snowfall totals because I want to get to the next part of the update quickly, but take a look here at the GFS. This is going out to December 20th, which your atmospheric river will most likely be starting to slow down at this point. Yeah, it hasn't really changed. I mean, it's definitely decreased a little, but not by much. And let me tell you guys, the attention has started to shift farther south. Now we're starting to see some heavier rainfall totals going into California. We can see the northwestern coast of California now starting to see those yellows. Okay, that's definitely that's more than a foot of rainfall. Okay, a foot of rainfall in 20 days, or less than 20 days, I should say 16 days, is pretty ridiculous. And that's certainly not what you're supposed to be seeing out here. It is just a crazy amount of rainfall. That's certainly, I mean, I can't even stress this enough, really, to say how bad the flooding could be out here. And I really hope all of you guys understand that every day could be, there could be terrible flooding. Okay, but those same numbers, the same general numbers go all the way up and down the coast. How far inland do they get? Well, for California and Oregon, you're still going to get, above 5 inches of rain from now to December 20th. Okay, but you're most likely not going to get a foot of rain, but you still see some shades of red. Okay, that's around 6-7 inches of rain. That's a lot. That is a lot of rainfall. Okay, but just north of that, which we were just talking about, really all the way from Northern California up towards Oregon here. Now we get into Washington State. This is where those heavier rainfall amounts come in, and that's where we see also for places farther inland, we actually do see some more yellow showing up, which is signifying around a foot of rainfall. Okay, so just a crazy amount of rainfall. If you want to go all the way inland to different states like to Idaho, Montana, and then Wyoming, you can see it's certainly not as much, because what these storm systems do, they're very, very slow moving. And they're just really rounds of moisture that just come in from the Pacific, okay, and then they kind of stall out or they weaken, and it takes a long time for them to do that, and they do it right over this general area, and so that's why you see so heavy rainfall totals on the front of the places that get hit by this storm system, and then over here you don't see nearly as much, because at this point, when the storm gets here, it's almost completely weakened, and now it's ready to become a separate storm system and piece of energy over the central and mainland of the United States. That's pretty much how things are going to be working as we get through December. All right. So we discussed a very, very dangerous storm system that was showing up on the GFS. I think I did an update around 3 days ago. Okay, well, that storm system is now looking very likely to expected. Okay, we have what could be the biggest storm of December that's about to roll through, and it's really it's just looking so dynamic that I think that we really just got to make sure that we're looking at every single model run that comes out, because this is going to cause, so countless problems. Okay, so taking a look here at the GFS, notice how this is not the 12Z GFS from today. This is the 18Z GFS from yesterday. I think all the runs of the GFS that came out today were underdoing the system, meaning that they weren't strengthening it enough. I think the 18Z looked pretty good last night. All right, sadly I didn't get a chance to do an update, but I do think the 18Z looks pretty good. I've seen this run already, okay, but let's take a look at what happens here. So the atmospheric river actually has to do something with this system, because it's the piece of energy detached from the atmospheric river that's going to be riding the jet stream that's going to spark up the system. Okay, so right over here is that start of the system. Watch what that does. Okay, we're 66 hours out, so really 2.5 days out. Okay, and we got very, very tall ridging going all the way up to out of the central United States. Okay, whenever you see that kind of ridge, on both sides there's going to be a big Arctic plunge. Okay, so you see right now in the eastern U.S. we're about to experience some very below average temperatures here with some high pressure. Okay, this Arctic blast is kind of moving down like that, but it's also getting pushed out to sea because that ridge is starting to block out the central U.S. Okay, but what happens behind that ridge? Now you can start to see some cold air beginning to push down on that warm air, and we get a low pressure system right here. Okay, we get a 992 millibar low pressure, which is riding the jet stream on top of this ridge, but it's slowing down. So if this gets caught up, okay, in between this ridge and this oncoming Arctic blast, the areas that this could go right through would be really the central U.S. But let's say this continues its its direction and its speed. Okay, then it would continue to ride this ridge. Okay, and the low pressure center would be here. But we're talking about a very big and expansive storm system. So, we're gonna say that if this low pressure ends up being up here, just north of the Great Lakes, it will have a tail kind of down like that, only reaching down to really Tennessee. Okay, but if it slows down, which some models have been suggesting, okay, then it would be more like that, and then it would tail down like this, reaching all the way down to maybe even the Gulf Coast states. All right, that's a big difference, and that's really going to affect how many people become affected by this. But we see what happens with the system. All right, and this system actually moves out. Okay, it doesn't get the chance to really do anything. It continues riding that ridge, okay, and it almost speeds up, if you would, all right, and it misses that cold blast, okay. But this is what really sparked the storm system. This up here, okay. It is that same system that's about to impact the northwest, that atmospheric river. Here comes down here. It's 1,000 millibars. It's very, very low. It's very far south. Okay, so at this point, you should already know that this is definitely far south enough to bring problems directed to the United States. It's not gonna be half the United States impacted. It's gonna be all of the United States. All right. But here comes, you've got a very, very sharp contrast between your cold blast and your warm front. These isobars are getting very tight, signifying some stronger winds, and it looks like you've got a pretty big storm system oncoming. Okay, but it's really that warmer and that cold air that's pressing up against each other that's gonna start to spark the system. All right, 1,004 millibars, but it's slowing down considerably. So that means that it's got time to strengthen. Okay, you've got two bodies of water that can pull that the storm system can pull moisture up from. It's pulling a lot of moisture up from the Gulf. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be another one of those Gulf systems. All right, let me get rid of highlighter and switch this to pen. But this is the flow of the moisture. Okay, it's moving right up in front of the system, right towards this low pressure here. But it's also picking up moisture from the Atlantic. You can even see these isobars are moving in this direction. They're moving in the direction the storm is about to move into. So a very healthy atmosphere for the system to strengthen. We start to see some very, more extreme and noticeable rainfall, which is falling all the way up and down the Ohio Valley down towards the deep south, and then on the backside of this, we start to see that Arctic plunge really getting far down into Texas. Okay, that's going to allow some snow to build up on the backside of this, and now you've got a raging winter storm for portions of the Midwest into southern Michigan. Okay, so a very active system already, and this is not even nearly as strong as it will be as it moves in the northeast. All right, look at this. We're getting 995 millibars. Okay, and we're starting to see some more heavier rainfall, and now we start to see extreme snowfall. Okay, very heavy snowfall starting to fly over portions of Ohio, getting into Indiana, and then portions of Michigan. We're starting to see also some heavier rainfall starting to expand as the storm gets stronger, and we've got a very dynamic looking storm system. All right, so what could the impacts be? Well, I think the first impacts from the system could be thunderstorms. Okay, I think that this could even be an all thunderstorm event all the way up to the northeast. But on the backside, that's what we're calling this a winter storm, because look at all this snowfall. Okay, a very heavy snow, which is associated with a huge Arctic blast. Look at this, just a extensive Arctic blast. This is getting all the way down to, really down to Alabama and Mississippi. Okay, but this could actually become negatively tilted. Okay, and that is going to make this even more dynamic. It's going to suck up more moisture. It's going to get stronger. All right, that's basically what that means. And boom, you've got a 988 millibar storm system just wreaking havoc across the eastern U.S. Very, extreme winds are just whipping out here. You got very, very heavy snow on the backside of this, extreme rainfall moving up and down the eastern seaboard. This is the recipe for trouble. This is a very impactful system based off of the 18Z GFS. So this is definitely going to be a very, very impactful system, and it's just going to get stronger and stronger. So now, we probably have the heaviest snow falling at this point, and we're getting into Sunday. Okay, so this is going to be a Saturday into Sunday type of thing. And once this arrives to the northeast, that's when those damaging wind gusts start. Okay, and it's really going to be the middle of the night. What it looks like here. Okay, this will change. The timing of this will change. Also, the strengthening of this. That's why we got to watch every single model run that comes out. All right, but the 18Z GFS is supporting the idea of really Saturday into Sunday morning kind of system here. So that strolls through the northeast. Now we're getting to Monday, okay, and this thing is still sticking around here. This is we're getting into this is pretty much the middle of the night, Sunday to Monday. So this could actually, based off the GFS, this could take up to 2.5 days really to get to leave. Okay, and those very strong thunderstorms roll right through the northeastern U.S. and then we get that backside snowstorm. But it breaks apart as this thing moves out. So it's looking like the Midwest is up uh for a big snowstorm rather than the Northeast. So it looks like this actually may be a bigger snow event for the Midwest and then a bigger rainfall event for the Northeast. All right, and so we could definitely see also on the backside of this that Arctic blast. It's moved all the way down to the Gulf Coast to down to Florida, where we're seeing below average temperatures. So a very active stretch of weather coming up, not only with the system but also just with our temperature swings. So moving on here, we're taking a look now at the European model. Basically, just look at the latest 12 European model that just came out. All right, so it starts out with that same setup. It starts out with that big ridging going on out here in the central U.S. We'll see what happens with it if it picks up with that weak piece of energy, and does it have that becoming the system? All right, or does it have the system up in the northwest move down through the southwest like the GFS? Then become our system. So starting out here, we can now already see that it looks pretty clear that that's not the case with the European model. The European model just wants that first straight up low pressure to continue moving throughout the western U.S. and then into the north central U.S. where we get that 995 millibar low pressure. And yeah, it looks like that could be it. Okay, but no, it's not. All right, it picks up on that same piece of energy and low pressure, that separate one. Okay, but it throws it out to into Canada like the GFS did, and it builds that same secondary low pressure off to the southwest. And that actually forms our system too. So very interesting that the European model and GFS are in check, and now we're actually starting to see some model agreement, and this is so far out. Okay, this is a very odd setup here that we're so far out, but we already have some model agreement. All right, but this low pressure I think builds even farther south than the GFS. Same very deep Arctic blast and very sharp contrast. The European model wants the Arctic blast to be stronger and farther south than the GFS at first. But here we go. That's that severe weather event in the southeast. There's some freezing rain, some ice, and some snow building up on the backside. All right, and bam, this actually gets as strong as it would get in the northeast that the GFS was showing, but the Euro wants it becoming that strong as it's moving through the Ohio Valley. Okay, but we start to see a lot of snowfall building up on the backside. Very dynamic system. All right, you can see the traditional look of the storm system. You got that tail on the front side, that cold blast moving in like that. All right, look at this. The flow of the cold air is moving right into the backside of the system. You can see it's starting to loop right here. Okay, so that's definitely going to show that this cold air is getting pulled into the system. Same with that moisture. The isobars are moving in that same direction the GFS was showing. Pretty much the same setup from the European and GFS model. Okay, the European wants more of a kind of an ice storm at first, if you would, and then it becomes a snowstorm on the backside for the Midwest and Ohio Valley. We get the same timing. It's a little bit delayed here because we are actually getting to Monday. This is just starting to move into the Northeast, so delayed just about half a day really from the GFS and the European model, but that's not the biggest difference. Okay, considering that we're this far out. All right, but that system rolls through. Still a big line of thunderstorms charging right through the eastern seaboard. That moves out into the northeast. That becomes a very strong storm for Atlantic Canada, so gotta watch out for that. But that finally pulls out. All right, and so yeah, that was the European model, and so we look how far south that cold blast gets, and actually the European model wants this cold blast to follow that system, and it wants more because it wants more troughing, or it wants more ridging out here, in the western U.S. Okay, And so that's why we don't see this cold blast get all the way down past the Gulf Coast, but it does get to the Gulf Coast at one point here. Just a very extensive and huge Arctic blast and storm system showing up on the GFS and the European model. All right, so the last model that we're going to be taking a look at here is the Canadian model. Okay, so what does the Canadian model want to say about this? Well, it has that same ridge. Here's that same low pressure that the GFS and Euro have been showing, and it shows the exact same scenario. It throws that low pressure out into Canada, and boom, there's that pop-up low in the south. All right, so three same scenarios that we show that are shown here. We don't see any freezing rain starting to show up here on the Canadian model until we get to about Sunday, as this moves into the Midwest, where we actually do get a very heavy band of snowfall and ice freezing rain, just a nasty wintry mix on the backside of that. 993 millibar low pressure, so same kind of range, general range. All right. Looks like we are definitely getting an Arctic blast here. It's moving down like this. Okay. It's not made it as far south as quite as far south as the European model shows, but does this get wrapped into the system? Yes, it does. Okay, so the Euro takes it all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Pretty much same with the GFS. The Canadian model wants it really to go all the way down to northern northern Louisiana at this point. All right. Shows that same severe weather event, but not as significant for the southeast, and it really wants to strengthen this a lot later as this moves into the northeast. Um, it gets really strong. Now it's sub 990 millibars here. All right, we're starting to see that snow changing more to rain as we get to the northeast. This is looking like a Winter Storm Elliott kind of setup, to be honest with you guys. No, Winter Storm Elliott was farther north with this, but as this moves into the northeast, it just looks like that general system with that cold blast on the backside, some snowfall, but really some, early December thunderstorms, which is not that common in the northeast, but that's what the Canadian model is supporting, and that moves out. All right, the Canadian model has the same. I would say the Canadian model is the same time as the GFS, really, because it wants it moving out by Monday. So yeah, those are the top three models that we're looking at here in the weather community, and they just showed not the same exact thing, obviously, but very similar storm setups and just patterns with the storm system. So very interesting to see that. We move over now to the GFS model. Now this is for our 250 millibar wind speeds, and this shows our streamlines as well. So which direction the winds are heading in. Okay, this basically is going to show how strong and active our jet stream is up in the atmosphere. All right, so starting out here, we can see there's that Arctic plunge, or here's that ridge, I should say, out in the west. All right, and here comes your got the 18 DGFS. All right, but here comes your low pressure. That's the one. This is not the one that we're watching. This is the one that's going to get thrown out to Canada. Okay. All right, but this is your big ridge. This is very tall. It's like a dome over the northern U.S. So you could already tell this is just such an active jet stream pattern that's so wild out here that it's pretty much impossible for nothing to happen. All right, so there goes that low pressure. All right, and here comes your main low pressure. Okay, we get a deep, more of a deepening in the jet stream. We're starting to see an amplified storm track here in the south in the Pacific jet stream here. And so that's not going to be a huge influence with the system, although it may help pull some moisture into it. It's really just going to ride the main jet stream here. All right, and this continues, just continues to ride it, and we're starting to see some stronger winds up in the atmosphere. That's certainly going to cause for some strengthening. All right, so and I don't know if you would call this your lower level or your upper level jet. All right, but this is definitely going to be ripping no matter what. All right, and it gets very strong here. This is around 35,000 feet in the air, and we have winds raging at 170 knots. All right, so just a very strong storm in general, and then this becomes negatively tilted. Okay, we get our low right here, and it's tailing down off to the southeast. And yeah, you just look at this huge plunge in our jet stream. You got huge, massive ridging over the west, and then this just falls down, and then picks itself up as we get into the central west. That is a wild jet stream pattern, and you can just tell that this is nothing like what a normal jet stream pattern would look like. This is what you could say a relatively normal jet stream pattern would look like. All right, this is what we get here. Wild. All right, but that moves into the eastern U.S. Bam! This is where we get the idea of damaging wind from. Okay, all the way up and down the eastern seaboard, all the way down to Florida. Okay, this is your wind. These are your winds at 35,000 feet in the air. But they're gusts. I mean, I guess just blowing at 170 knots. Okay, that's very strong considered for your jet stream here. So very active, very strong jet stream, very strong upper level winds here, and that's going to be a big influence on how strong those winds are going to be. But those winds are going to be pushing right off to the east and then moving east northeast, kind of like that. All right, so just a very active jet stream pattern ahead. That's another big reason of why we're going to get this system. All right, take a look now here at our current projected GFS wind gusts here. This is in knots. Okay, so converting knots to miles per hour, just add 10 units of wind to that, and that's where you get miles per hour. All right, and these are your wind gusts. Okay, so for the storm system in the Midwest, well, the GFS wants winds really ranging from around 20 to gusts, I should say, 20 to 30 miles per hour, which is around 40 miles per hour. Okay, that was pretty similar to what we saw with Winter Storm Elliott, which happened last year. Okay, so not the strongest of winds ever, but we do see some pockets of stronger winds down into portions of western Missouri and then also into eastern Kansas. Okay, but when do these winds really ramp up? Well, that's when we get to the northeastern U.S. Okay, right here, bam. Now we're starting to see now actually in front of the system. Okay, that's when this trough comes in and that Arctic blast starts to move, and that's where you get those first frontal winds. Here comes your actual system. These are where your stronger winds will develop here, starting to unfold. Now we can start to see wind gusts potentially getting up to 50 in these tan shades, because these are your wind gusts in knots. Okay, around 30 to 40 miles per hour. So yeah, really around 45 mile per hour wind gusts here in these tan shades, really ranging all the way down from the Ohio Valley, and then into the Tennessee Valley potentially. But really in these tans and these light green shades is where you could be dealing with the strongest winds. Okay, but as the storm moves over the Great Lakes, this will really start to strengthen with those winds and these mountainous regions, the Smoky Mountains. All right, so just if you're on the coast of of one of these Great Lakes out here, especially Lake Erie, okay, or if you're in the upper elevations of anywhere on this map, really, expect stronger winds with this system. I'm telling you guys. And then this moves into the northeast, and this is going to be one of the harder hit areas with those wind gusts here. Okay, and we can see then these oranges and these deep orange colors. Okay, these are your current projected wind gusts in knots. 46 to 50 knots just south of Long Island, and then really into Long Island. Okay, that is around 60 miles per hour. So extremely strong winds. We could be talking about winds that could uproot trees because it's going to be raining a lot. Okay, this is going to feel like a strong tropical storm. That could potentially be what it feels like for the first half of it. But those winds they move right through. You can see really the entire northeastern U.S. cannot escape those winds. And for southern New England at a portion of time here, we actually see those wind gusts reaching into the mid 50s on eastern Long Island and extreme southern New England. The mid 50s, that's 65 miles per hour. That is those are serious winds. And I'm sure off of Cape Cod, we're starting to see ridiculous wind speeds of, hurricane force. Okay, but that was what you just saw. Those were the current projected wind gusts, I should say. And yeah, it just looks very, very active, very dynamic system. So already this far out, we're starting to see a huge, big agreement in our potential impacts and some potentially life-threatening impacts that will come with the system. GFS model for snowfall totals, the 18Z GFS. Well, not much for the northeastern U.S. Well, the interior northeast, okay. This is also mainly your snowfall totals from your from your system that just pulled out. That's pretty much happening right now. Okay, so I want you to guys to cross out this area. This is not what you're looking at for our current projected snowfall totals. It's what this is the area that I want you guys to see. So this is the area that was shown by the GF, all of the models that was shown to get snow. Okay, and we can see really in between the border of Ohio and Indiana is where we see that those higher snowfall totals. Those greens, okay, that's around a foot of snow. That goes into portions of eastern Michigan. Okay, we can see some 9, 5, 8 inches of snow. So a substantial snowstorm for the northern tier of Ohio, getting into northeastern Indiana, and then really southeastern Michigan is where the GFS model currently has the placement for the highest snowfall totals. But for the rest of these areas, okay, maybe 1 to 4 inches of snow really is that general amount. The mountainous regions of West Virginia is starting to pick up a lot more snow, really similar to out here in Ohio, Indiana, and then into Michigan. But yeah, definitely a very, very impactful system with snowfall too, snowfall and rain. And then even in the Northeast, some portions of the Northeast that could get snow. Really around an inch based off of the current GFS. This will change. Maybe this will get higher. Maybe it'll get lower. We really don't know. As for now, we just got to see how this continues to play out as we get through this week. But yeah, these are your current projected snowfall totals based off of the 18Z GFS of last night, which I believe is the most reliable run of current latest run of the GFS that was recent. So we go over to now. This is the current SBC outlook. All right, and then this is where things could actually get very dangerous. Okay. This is the 6 day outlook, okay? And we have a 15% risk for severe weather. This is 6 days out. And these are the experts, guys. Okay, these are the guys that know what they're doing, and 99% of the time what they expect to happen happens. And we already see a 15% risk for severe weather for Saturday, December 9th, okay? And this is 6 days out. It's incredible how far out this is, and that we already have a forecast for severe weather. This is including portions of central and southern Arkansas down into eastern Texas, okay? And then we can also see into portions of northern and then western Louisiana. We have Shreveport, Louisiana, Little Rock, Arkansas, right in the middle, Lake Charles, Louisiana, Houston. You guys are right on the border of that, okay? And by the way, guys, this is a slight risk, really, for severe weather. It's level 2 out of 5 risk, 6 days out. So think how much time this has to develop. All right, so we could have a 30% risk for severe weather tomorrow, and if we have that, okay, that is really calling for an enhanced risk 5 days out at that point. Okay, so I don't want to say anything too crazy right now, but I'm saying it's likely. We have a chance for a potentially historic severe weather outbreak in the Deep South. And this certainly has enough time to become upgraded up to maybe a level 4 out of 5 risk, which is moderate risk. And nobody should say this. I won't even really say it, but you're eyeing that high risk. You always, whenever you get up to a 4 out of 5 risk, you always see that the high risk is next. Okay, you never want to say anything too early. But this looks like we could be dealing with a moderate risk, which is level 3 out of 5, an enhanced risk, which is level 3 out of 5 or above for the day that this becomes in play. All right, so this is one of the most dangerous storm systems that you're going to see, and I've been doing this for a year now, and I don't think I've seen such a strong signal this early for a storm system that is going to happen this weekend, which is 6 days out. All right, it's very incredible to see this happening with the SPC outlook. So extremely dangerous weekend ahead. We look at why is this happening? Well, we'll look at the dew points because it's going to be very moist out here. We'll look at the Cape as we get farther into the week, but those dew points basically showing where that moisture is surging. Okay, we're getting in the 60s. Okay, we could really see that same area right here, which is this is right around Saturday morning. So Saturday morning into afternoon, we're in the 60s and 50s for our dew points. Okay, we are very, very humid. There's a lot of moisture and unstableness in the atmosphere because you have dry, cold air on the backside pushing right up against this moist and warm air. Look how quick that contrast is. We get our dew points right here are in the 30s, okay? And I mean, this is less than 50 miles just to the southeast of that. Our dew points are in the 60s. That's how sharp that contrast could be. And that is why we have a big threat for severe weather outbreak. All right, and that moves with the system, and then that dry air moves in. But I mean, that is a lot of moisture that's going to be thrown right in front of the system, and that's a big reason of why we have such a high chance for severe weather outbreak. So for the last part of the update, we're going to be looking at quickly our current projected temperature anomalies here. So here comes your ridge that we're looking at, and it's very strong. I mean, you get into Montana, you're nearing 30 degrees above your historical average. That is considered very, very high, and that ridge is not really going to slow down, and it moves out off to the east. But here comes your Arctic plunge starting to build up. All right, and the GFS. This is the 18Z from. Actually, no. Let's get this to the 18Z from yesterday. That was the 18Z from today. This is the 18Z from yesterday. Okay, and this is where I think that we could actually. This is one of the patterns that I think is more more correct. And we start to see that same cold blast, not as strong. Okay, I think there will be a strong cold blast, but the GFS doesn't want this as strong. It just wants it very extensive down really far south. Okay, but you're nearing around 10 degrees below your historical average. That's pretty low. Okay, but that's not considered a strong Arctic blast. And I think one reason why is because there's going to be a lot of warm air and ridging nearby, so that may slow it down a little bit. But you can see right after, we're seeing temperatures so high that we're getting over 30 degrees or above our historical average afterwards. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. This is gonna be I've said this probably 3 times already, but this is gonna be most likely the biggest storm of December, and the biggest storm of really for the beginning of winter. All right, it's gonna be snow, severe weather, extreme winds, flooding. It's there's so many different impacts that are gonna come with the system. And so right now we just gotta continue watching every run that comes out of the GFS, the Euro, and the Canadian model, and just we gotta figure out which one really brings the picture together of what could actually happen this weekend. So thank you all for coming to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.